Hi, and welcome to Creation Depot. My name is Wendy Literal, and today we're going to be talking about how to become a website designer in 2019. So, like most jobs in this field, web designers are not like isolated little people. It's like we're all part of a team, right? That can include developers, UX, UI professionals, and the best designers are people that know how to work within that team, which means knowing a little bit about what all these other people do, right? So it's not just about making a pretty design. You kind of need to know, not kind of need to know, you need to know how to make those designs work within what everybody else does. Like you can make a kick butt design that's really, really cool and super intuitive and ingenious and, wonderful. And it's not just about making a pretty design. You have to do it in a way that makes it actually functional. Like you have to have a design that has a great user experience. It has to have a development scheme that is not going to drive your developer mad. It's like you can have these great ideas for how you want things to function, and you should. And you should push for your designs. Never be afraid to push for your designs, but know where to draw the line too, because you don't want it to come back and bite you because the developer had to do this like crazy hack to make your design work, and now, oh look, it doesn't work on mobile or something like that. You got to know a little bit about what everybody else does so that you're not stepping on their toes. Still excel in your field and still know the things that you need to know as a website designer, but it does not hurt you. It makes you a much stronger designer when you have a little bit of knowledge about what everybody else does. All right, so we're going to look at 5 different things. And the first one that we're going to look at is learn what the website trends are. And there's a couple really easy ways to find it. And I'm not going to lie, the best one is Google. It could be as simple as Googling website trends in 2019 or website trends in 2018 or 2017. Look, it is the web. Stuff changes, but honestly, we're humans and we are slow to change ourselves. And so the trends do not change that quickly. So you can go back even 5 years and, even though the technologies will have changed, the way people look and interact with things won't. So you can look back and see, okay, well, if I do a website like this, this is really cool. I can incorporate this into my design, or, oh, that's a really cool thing that's happening. The problem with looking at stuff that is 2019 is that a lot of stuff with websites, comes in and goes right back out. I can name a couple frameworks that have come into play, and those things have been like, yeah, this is the way the web's going. We're going to do it this way. And then they just fizzle out and disappear. That happens with the social media too. Like look at Vine, right? Like Vine was a big part of Twitter and now it's defunct, so it's just it's the same thing with website design trends, is that the design part won't go away that quickly, but the ways to get those designs might. See what I mean? It's the look and the feel and the way that the website works together and what people now know to click on. Like a couple years ago, people didn't know to click on hamburger menus, to expand the menu out, right? Like, or it was only on mobile. Well, now they're on desktop versions too. That is a design trend, right? And you can expect that that's going to continue, and it's going to be easier as it becomes a more recognized thing to click on this to get to the menu. So that's what I mean, is just look at more what the trends are doing and less about the technologies that are making them implemented, how they're making them happen. One other thing you can look at too is something like the Webby Awards, and look at what is winning the awards. Like what are the new things that the professionals or the experts in the industry are saying, hey, these sites are award worthy. They're really, really good. Look at what those are. A lot of times the sites that win are just so out there that like you're never going to find a customer that's going to want a website that does all this. One, because it's going to be ridiculously expensive because it's so custom and so crazy that it's just not a real good functioning thing. It might be cool, but it's not something that's going to, it's not going to make you money to have that skill on how to do it. But then there's the more traditional stuff like, oh, their nav works this way. Oh, they have this new search, the way that they do the search, or their search results look a certain way. Like those are the things that you're going to want to look at when you look at those award-winning sites, because they're good for a reason. They're winning for a reason. But also kind of keep in mind that, you're probably going to have a more conservative customer than somebody that's going to want something that flashes across the screen, So, all right, number 2, learn CSS3 and HTML5. That's in 2019. If you're watching this a few years from now, I'm sure that those numbers are now higher. So why do you need to learn this stuff if you're primarily working in like Photoshop, right? Well, again, it kind of harkens back to like knowing a little bit what everybody else does. But as a website designer, you really should know those coding, because it's going to come down to you to code some stuff at some point in your career. Like I'm a little bit of what they call like a unicorn. Like I know a little bit of development and I know a whole lot about design. And I'm able to take a Photoshop file and break it down and make a website out of it. But I can do that because I know CSS3 and I know HTML5. And I'm really harping on those numbers because they are way different than the previous versions. So learn those skills, learn what those things can do and how browsers interact with them, right? Like each browser has a slightly different way that it works with HTML5, for example, or a slightly different way that it would render CSS3, So learn those things and learn them very, very, very well. It will serve you so well in your career to know how to do those things. And also because, again, when you're designing, you're going to design with those things in mind and know that you can't go off the rails over here and do something crazy, because you're not going to be able to break that down into a grid structure, for example. So here's the other thing about code, is that you may not be the one that's actually developing. Every job I've ever had as a website designer, I've also had to do code, every single one. Now, you may be in a position where there are jobs out there that don't have you code at all. You design it in Photoshop and you send a file to the developer and they take it apart. And that might be your job. But again, knowing that your design isn't going to screw them up is really, really, really important. You don't want to design something that they're going to have to come back to you and be like, hey, sorry, I can't make this happen. And then you're stuck redesigning something that's already been approved and then trying to get it out the door. So that's something to be concerned with, is that you really don't want stuff coming back to you because you weren't aware that it wasn't going to work. It makes you look really bad. And the other thing about that too is that management will love you for having that kind of foresight, because they don't want to deal with it later either. Full stop. They want to be able to go to their boss and be like, yeah, we got it done on time. What are you talking about? They don't care that, you didn't get to have your piece of artwork, and have it look the way that you wanted it to look. No, they care about getting a viable product out the door so that they can make money. Like, that's what management cares about. So if you're able to provide that because you have this skill set, which you really need to have with learning basic coding with HTML5 and CSS3, it's going to take you far. And I would add JavaScript, JQuery to that, but we're going to get to that a little bit later in this video because there's some trips about that too. All right, so number 3 is don't be a know-it-all. And that seems a little contradictory to number 2 because I just got through telling you need to know code, but you don't. So basically, let me clear it up a little bit. Yes, you need to know the code so that you can provide a better product to your customer, right? Or in this case, your boss, for example. But you're a web designer. You are part of a team. So what you need to do as a good website designer is you got to ask. You need to Skype your developer or your UX guy or whatever you might want to, whoever you need to talk to, and be like, hey, do you got 5 minutes? Can you check out this design and let me know if you think there's any problems with it? Because they'll be able to tell you in 5 minutes flat if like, hey, I can't make that happen, or that's not a realistic thing to do, or if I implement that JavaScript code, it's going to slow down the site 100-fold. Like, they're going to be able to tell you these things. You may not see it because you're looking at the art. You might be trying to make it 508 compliant, which is a government's accessibility requirement, right? You might be trying to make it, match the client's dream, like you might be able trying to make it, I don't know, match their sports team or something. You get weird requests as a designer. But that's my point, is that you might be so focused on trying to make it happen that you're not following through and being like, hey, this is an issue, because something you can't see, a developer or a UX person or even project management has been able to step in and be like, that's not going to work because this client's got this other client over here and they're not going to like that. You know, it's like politics, but you're not going to be able to catch any of that stuff unless you open your mouth and ask. You know, if these are stuff that you're not going to be able to control. So do it, ask, utilize your team, you know, it makes them feel valuable, and it makes your work so much better, so much better. Just do it, just ask. And the side benefit of that is that when they're explaining what's wrong with your stuff, you learn and you pick it up and you put that little nugget in your brain, and then later you come back and you use it again, and then that just keeps growing. It is a way to learn. Which brings me to number 4, constantly be learning. Okay, so and I started this video, I was talking about, like, you know, you can Google back a couple of years and the design trends will be the same, that kind of thing. Yes, that is true. Constantly keep learning. Take those JavaScript courses because you really should know JavaScript as well, but I'm just not making a requirement in this because to get like a starter job, you just need HTML and CSS. You know, everything else is kind of extra. But if you know JavaScript and you know the way that works and JQuery and man, if you know PHP, and you can start writing your own ticket. You see where I'm going with this? If you know Drupal and WordPress and backend functionality, like, you know that stuff, you can write your own ticket. So constantly be learning. And the thing is that a lot of stuff changes over time. There was a time when Adobe Flash like ran the web. Like anything fun that you wanted to do on the web, Adobe Flash made it happen. Flash no longer exists. I don't even think Shockwave still exists. If it does, it's not as popular as it used to be. Like, what you don't want to have happen is become stagnant. And I can tell you from personal experience, when you get into a job that's cushy, that you know how to do the things that you need to do in it, you know, they have regular clients and those clients know what to expect and they don't want to change because people don't want to change, you know, and you'll end up doing the same newsletter 50 times, you know, or you will have a website and you know that they want to put this blog post out here over this, or they want to have to implement these regulations have to go out at a certain time. Like, you fall into a rhythm and you get used to that rhythm, and then you don't feel the need to learn anything new because you're just, you know, rinsing and repeating, and you're not putting yourself out there to learn the new things because why do you need to? You don't. Not for that job. But if something ever happens where that business suddenly closes their doors, hello 2008, you know, like, you won't have the skill set of your peers because as you've been sitting here stagnant, the years are going by and you're not keeping up with everything that's happening. And then suddenly you have to catch up very quickly, you know, to even be remotely competitive with everyone else who's also looking for a job. So constantly be learning. It just makes a big, like, it's like eating an elephant, you know, one bite at a time. There's so many different things you can learn when you're a website designer or developer. One little nugget at a time over a long amount of time will keep you current. It doesn't have to be like a crazy stressed out thing. You're not going to have to take classes constantly. Like, it's nothing like that. It's just read an article, you know, take a lynda.com class over the course of 3 months, you know, and just nick away at each one of those 3-minute videos until you're done. Like, that counts. That certification shows up in your LinkedIn profile, and then you can market that later. But none of that happens if you don't do it. So, you know, allow a certain amount of time per day, even if it's 15 minutes, to just knock out a couple of videos or to go read an article on webdesignerdepot.com or something. You know, it's like, just do it. Just do it and make it happen and make it first thing, because it has to be a priority, because you are the only thing constant in your life. Everything else could just go away. So in order not to be dramatic, but I mean, we're in a crazy industry, you know, stuff changes overnight, you know, like the bootstrap framework, that never used to be around. And now look, here it is. Learning that stuff puts you ahead of the next guy. Just knowing it, even if you stay at your job for 10 years, which is unheard of anymore. If you stay at your job for a long amount of time and you suddenly have to leave, you will be up to date. Just do it. Just do it and make it happen. It's not a big deal. And that brings me to the last thing. Number 5 is take care of yourself. And as a website designer, you might be like, this is not website design stuff, Wendy. What are you talking about? The truth is, if you don't take care of yourself, especially if you're young and watching this, and maybe you haven't sat at a desk for 15 years, just take care of yourself, because here's what happens. You're sitting at a desk, right? Like, even if you have the most ergonomic setup and your posture is fantastic and there's no problems, right? Like, I'm sitting on my ball chair and I'm got my back is straight. I've got my ergonomic keyboard. I got my ergonomic mouse. I've got my ergonomic wrist pad. Like, I am good to go, right? No. I force myself to sit here for 8 hours a day. And while I'm doing that, I'm forcing my spine to hold myself up. I'm holding my head at a still angle, and nobody feels it because muscles get so strong and so good at holding your body absolutely still all this time, all day long. And instead of going out and hunting and gathering and doing all this stuff and using our bodies kind of probably the way that they were intended, we force our bodies to stay absolutely motionless. And while we're doing that, we eat American food, right? And this isn't a big soapbox preach thing to, go out and be like the next P90X star. It is get up and move. Get up and move several times throughout the day. Do stretches, just something simple as like, shoulder stretches that stretch out your back. Get up, walk around, go out for a walk on your lunch hour. Even if you just go down and do an exercise program, there's a million of them on YouTube. Just go do one that's like a 10-minute long one or a 15-minute long one, and you won't even break a sweat. So you don't even have to change out of your office gear. Just do it several times a week. And the difference in your productivity, the difference in your body, the difference in your health is so significant. Because here's what happens. You go 15 years of sitting at a desk. Kind of around that 15-year mark, if not sooner, you start to develop things like carpal tunnel. You start to develop issues with your compression in your neck. You start to develop issues in your lower back because you've been sitting at a desk for a decade, right? And what happens over time is that stuff deteriorates because you haven't used it in any other way. So as somebody that's been sitting for years and years and years and years, I'm telling you, if you just exercise, just freaking do it. Like, not trying to be a Nike ad, just do it. You will get so much health benefit out of it that your productivity will way up. You'll be able to knock out stuff like you might be trying to drag yourself through a project. That project will go a whole lot faster if you're also not feeling like crud, and your the amount of times you have to call out sick, the times you have to call out, it just makes you such a better worker if your body isn't falling apart. So, a lot of times we sit here mindless at the desk, for example, like in a previous thing I talked about, like how I quit Diet Coke. And it was basically, I just had giant jugs of water constantly on my desk, and I replaced that habit with this habit. And do I still want Diet Coke? Yes, I do. But I now drink a whole bunch of water because this is my new habit. I always have water on my desk. I don't have Diet Coke even in the house. If I want a Diet Coke, I have to leave, right? So that's my point, it's just it's got to be part of the setup. Yes, learn the code. Yes, learn how to be a good designer. Yes, go out and figure out what a good design looks like and figure out, learn those skills. They are important. And of course, that's how you succeed. But it doesn't matter how good you are if you're not able to continue working at your job, including sitting. That's not good. So it has to be your health and your balance, your work-life balance has to be maintained. So that's it. And on a lighter note, I was pretty soapboxy there. If you want an itemized list of what to learn when as a website designer who's moving into a website developer, because that's where I'm at, right? I've been a designer for almost more than 2 decades. And now I'm going into developer as well. So if you want a list, what I've been doing is I've been making a Google Doc. And as I've been doing the Google Doc, I have been expanding and all right, I learned this at this stage. I learned this at this stage. And kind of a what to do when, because it is overwhelming because there's a billion things to learn. There's 100 different programming languages, and there's so many different schools of thought about what makes a good website design. How do you know what to do first? So I've been making a Google Doc, and I'll be more than happy to share that with you. If you want to get the link to that, go ahead and follow the link in the YouTube video below, and I'll email it to you. And that's constantly being updated. That's why I did a Google Doc, because I want to be able to update it as I change, as my skill sets change and as the industry changes. I just want it to be a living document. So if you want a link to that, go ahead and follow the link in the description below, and it'll go right to it. And remember, at the end of the day, as far as getting hired, it really doesn't come down to what you say on paper that you know how to do, your HTML, your CSS. Yeah, your resume does have to be decent, but it kind of comes down to your portfolio and who you know. You want a good job, you need to network. You need to find people that, maybe have a good job and say, hey, do you want to put in a good word for me? Or what do you think about working there? Like, how can I get started there? Like, have those conversations. Don't be shy about it. Just, again, if you ask people things, people are more than happy to tell you. People like to talk. And then also having a portfolio. You need to have a portfolio of probably, I would say, at least 10 things in your portfolio. And they could be, if you're kind of going to go on a brand here, like I would have several banners. I would have your social media examples. You would have your things you've designed specifically for a website. I would have screenshots of your websites. I would have links to if the websites are still active, because over time websites do deactivate. People go out of business. It happens, but you don't want to lose your work, so take screenshots of everything. There are a ton of Chrome extensions that will actually take full screenshots of the entire page. Get one. I think one is just called, you can look it up. Let's see what we got here. Full page screen capture. How much clearer can you get than that? Get that, and it will scroll down the web page as it's working, and the next thing you see is a PNG file or a PDF that you can download. And then just stick that in your portfolio, put it in a usually what I do is I put it in a Dropbox portfolio, and then anytime I got to send my portfolio to anybody, I just send them a link to the Dropbox. And then they can just go through and look at the latest, greatest stuff I've got, because it's constantly up to date. Because anytime I do something I like, I throw it in the Dropbox. Part of my work process, that's how I do it. And that's it. So I know this was kind of long, but it's a lot of valuable information here. And if you think so too, I would really appreciate a like, subscribe to, and also have a good one. Take care of yourself, because it's a lot, and it is like eating an elephant. There's so much to absorb, so much to do. But just start with one and then move to the next. It's just something that's going to take time. That's all there is to it. All right, that's it for now. My name is Wendy Literal, and I'm with Creation Depot. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment below. I do answer my YouTube comments. And I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Take care. Bye. It's St. Patrick's Day, and I have kids. My hands are permanently stained.